Welcome to the Childcare Director's Chair, the podcast for bold educators who are ready to lead, grow, and shake things up in early childhood education. Whether you are a teacher eyeing that lead role, a lead stepping into leadership, or a center owner dreaming big, this is your space to grow with purpose and leave your mark. Hosted by heart-centered leadership coach Erica Sacoccio, each episode brings you real talk, actionable tools, and a contagious laugh or two, all designed to help you step into your next level with confidence. So pour your coffee, pop in those earbuds, and take your seat, because your leadership journey starts right now in the Childcare Director's Chair.
Hey guys, it's Erica here at the Childcare Director's Chair podcast, day 2 in the Maine at the AEYC conference. I am joined with David and Robin from Rooted Development, and they're going to talk a little bit about what they do, and then we're going to get into some leadership questions because, I always get very excited when I talk to other folks who talk about leadership. So that's how we do it here. But we're going to turn over the mic to David. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go to Robin.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to start
with
Robin.
Okay, we'll start with Robin.
She's where this all starts. Yeah.
So I'm Robin, and I had the privilege of starting a school down in Massachusetts for many years. I started in a church basement with one child, one teacher, and then developed that through attracting and maintaining some great leaders to 5 schools. We were a multi-site program, foundational practices, and really meeting children where they're at, focusing on supporting families and parents, and really building skills in teachers, and really supporting the field in terms of filling the cups of the teachers on a regular basis. So I did that for the bulk of my career, and then relocated to Maine, transitioned out of our programs in Massachusetts in December of 22. And all along during that time, I've been a therapist, a coach, an early childhood educator, and a consultant. And then kind of combined all those things in our schools. But then now I'm basically we formed a company with my son David, is Rooted Development, to basically take all that knowledge base and translate it into really supporting leaders in the field of early childhood education. We're trying to be very sustainable. We see the level of burnout and how hard it is to be a director, and we really want to support them in helping them be the facilitator of their teachers' growth. So that's how Rooted came to be, and really excited about the possibilities of sharing our knowledge base and really supporting and elevating the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, well, she
did a pretty good intro.
She said pretty much everything there. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to follow. So my background isn't in education, but I spent most of my career in leadership and business consulting. I'm working with lots of different size companies, large, small, NGOs, private sector. But now I kind of exclusively do that with early childhood programs with Robin. And I also had a stint where I started a software company, so I also have a technology background. But, I worked on that company for a number of years. And I think at a certain point, I decided to step back, and I kind of said to myself, I think this is the last time I work on a company that I don't really feel passionate about. So Robin and I, after I kind of stepped back from that, we were talking, and that's kind of where the idea for Rooted came about. Because, I was asking her, hey, there's got to be some challenges in early childhood that we could, team up together and solve.
We've got it all figured out here, Dave.
Yeah, and so that proved not to be the case. So we essentially are taking all, as Robin said, all the systems that she built over 40 years, and helping programs adapt them to their own program in a way that honors the differences in programs, but also gives them systems that are actually proven and will work in terms of helping people feel appreciated, supported, growing, and they're effective in their roles, both as leaders, but also as teachers.
Yeah, I think, especially if you want to scale up, I found in my experience, because I've also had multiple centers, I still have a few, but as you scale up, you can have a great center 1 and a great center 2, but if you don't have systems in place to replicate that, Center 3 and Center 4 are not going to be as great as Center 1 if you're not able to duplicate what makes you great. So that definitely is really important. Robin, let me ask you a question. How do you define effective leadership in an early childhood setting?
I look at leaders as, first of all, everything starts from the top down. And to your point about multi-site centers, that we only grew when we had the right leader to start the organization and the school. And I think that to be a good leader, you have to really be reflective and very self-aware and very intentional. And I think that oftentimes in this field, directors are meeting needs 24/7.
Yeah.
We're running around
Reacting.
constantly, putting out fires, one thing after another. Whenever I go into a program and I'm consulting with the director, I ask to come and watch them what they do for a couple hours so I can see how they approach the job. And 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what I see.
Yeah.
They're running around giving classroom messages, they're attending to the sick child, they're responding to a parent, and they have zero time to really focus on what they need to be doing. That's really just for them to be doing it. Delegation is hard, and I really try to help coach directors to become more intentional, less reactive, create systems, value their time, and have their teachers respect their time. So there's all different ways that you can accomplish that goal. But I believe that leaders really are there as a facilitator of everyone's growth around them, not the boss, not the dictator, but really there to be that conduit to help everyone grow, whether it's the child in the classroom, whether it's the teacher in the classroom, whether it's the parents coming in for a conference. You want to be the facilitator of that growth. And in order to do that and sustain that, you've got to fill the cup of yourself. You've got to take care of yourself. Self-care is a huge part of kind of our practices. Thinking about what keeps people in the field, what attracts people to the field, and what sustains people in the field is critical.
You said so much there. You said so much. I think you're right. Typically, the ones that are stressed out are just reacting. One of the things we talked about in our leadership group last Wednesday was, we always hear you set the tone, right? You set the tone in your building, right? So, we talk about how do you walk into the building with intention? Do you already have a plan? Because a lot of times they don't. They walk in and they say to okay, who's out? What emails do I have? They don't walk in with the plan. So the day rules them. And I love what you said about being reflective, because how you end your day is equally important as to how you start it. Right. And so that's where you look back and you'll say, what went well today? What didn't? Okay, what am I going to do about that? And then you kind of leave it at the door until the next day, but don't take it home with you, because a lot of times we'll take it home and we'll,
You absorb it.
You absorb it. Yeah. What are your personal leadership philosophies, and how does it guide your coaching work?
I guess my personal leadership philosophies really center on listening, being a good listener. And I practice that. I've practiced that my whole life. Thinking more about the person on the other side of the relationship and what they need from me in order to, again, facilitate their growth. Being honest and authentic in the communication with my supervisees. Every person that I coached or supervised had an individual meeting every week. So there was a relationship there, and I'm building that relationship, understanding that I have to understand this teacher or director as a person as well as an educator in order for me to figure out what I need to provide to them to help them grow and be reflective with them. So I think it's really building strong relationships, being reflective, being intentional, and being very aware of my own stuff. And I think that that's where the job is an emotional job. It's a relationship-based job. And the more clear I am about who I am to offer and my emotional life and what gets me to that calm place, the more effective I can be to help that teacher or director get to that place in themselves. I think that the goal isn't, as a leader or director, to replicate yourself. It's to bring out their voice.
Yeah.
It's to bring out what is special about them and respect that, which is okay. But I think that honest, authentic dialogue about what they need, what they're asking for, and then how do I provide that as a leader in order for them to feel good and effective in their role. I mean, we all want to feel effective. We all want to feel like we're making a difference. That's why we came into the field to begin with.
Yeah. So have you ever heard of an open air policy? So I a lot of folks will say I have an open door policy.
Right.
And I say I have an open air policy. And really what I'm talking about is that listening to understand instead of listening to respond. And a lot of times people just listen to respond or solve a problem. And sometimes folks are just coming to you because they just want to be heard and just say their opinion. They're not always looking for you to solve it. And a lot of times I feel like the directors that I work with, they feel like they have to solve every problem. And sometimes you don't. And sometimes it's maybe asking that person, how do you think we should solve this problem? Instead of you always thinking that you're the lead and your idea is the best. So, this is again how we grow and expand, and it's even our own leadership, right? Because when you get to the top, you have this, like, I don't know, complex, but some folks have this complex, you said, this authority, right? Where everything has to come from you. When you work on your own personal growth and say, not everything has to come from me, it doesn't make me less. Yeah, it doesn't make you less of a leader, right? And how do you grow those other folks? Like if you're not in the building, and I've had to do this firsthand because I'm not in my building as much anymore.
Right.
So that means I need the folks that are there to be able to solve problems. I have to call me every minute. This is a 911, call me. But if it's not a 911, solve the problem, make a decision, use your
Empower them.
regulations. Yeah, use your regulations, your policies. I mean, there's a framework there for you, and make a decision.
I think that the common problem, quite honestly, with directors is that they do go in and try to fix every problem. And I think that what we try to help directors look at is step back. Is this a problem that you have to solve, or is this a problem that this person can solve with your support?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to build their ability to solve problems. It's exactly the same way with kids in the classroom. I always say to teachers when they come to me with behavior management challenges, you want conflict in the classroom. And the goal is not to eliminate conflict. Your goal is to build the skills in the child to learn how to strategically solve those problems.
Yes.
So conflict is good and problems are good. Now we have the opportunity to practice problem solving skills together. And they may need a certain level. Some teachers may need a higher level of support with that. And some teachers you can just say, well, what do you think? And try it out.
Yeah.
You want to facilitate, create the air that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to try different things.
Yes.
You want them to experiment, and you want them to learn by doing exactly the same way that we're doing with children. We want hands-on learning. And you want to be a presence in terms of accessibility within boundaries. And I think that one of the trainings we do is really how to take control of your time as a director, kind of create a system where teachers know when they can get their needs met and how to get their needs met, but also respecting the boundaries around your time.
Yes.
So that you are facilitating and encouraging them to try to solve these problems independently.
Yeah, that is actually the root of burnout, I think, because what happens is you will spend your whole day running around,
And
micromanaging, reacting, and now it's 5:30 and you have got nothing from your job done. So now you're staying 3 hours after work to do the 5 priority things that you needed to get
That's
done.
exactly what happened.
I know. I know. We've all been there. We all start there, and then we're like, "Oh, this is not right. We're not handling this the right way." Yeah. I don't care how strong the engine is. If you got flat tires, you're not going anywhere.
I like that.
So how do you balance the business side of childcare leadership with the heart-centered relational side of work?
Systems. You have to have systems. You have to have really good systems.
You want to give some folks some examples of some systems they should have?
I think that really understanding the financial stability of a program is critical. Oftentimes when I sit down with directors and ask them how they set tuition or how they set their budgets, many directors have risen in the field from being a toddler teacher or an assistant teacher to a preschool teacher to a kindergarten teacher to assistant director to a director. And you know what? They never were taught any of these things, And so they have the heart side. They know what they want to do in the classroom, but they don't necessarily have the business side. And so creating systems that I believe that everything affects everything in school. And so we've always taken a systems approach theory in our practices. And so your financial, how you set a budget, how you set a tuition directly impacts hiring. It impacts compensation. It impacts how you invest in your teachers with professional development. So all these different things that we've kind of outlined for directors to think about and practices that we found really useful all interrelate. So I think to answer your question, you have to understand, and you don't have to be a super business person to run a great program, but what you have to do is understand the mechanics of the business in order to operate it and then be able to let those systems guide you, because then you can be available to your teachers and to your parents and your children in the program. But if you're, oftentimes what I see with directors is that they're either super business oriented and they are missing the teacher end of things, understanding development and what are best practices in the classroom, or they have all of that great stuff, but they have very little on the business side. What we're trying to do is give them both.
Yeah.
And not,
Yeah.
I mean, not all these systems are finance
Right.
related,
Sure.
right? I mean, if we took like a classic problem in the field, teacher retention,
Mhm.
there's probably like 10 or 15 different systems that we could list off that affect teacher retention, and some
Sure.
that not necessarily obviously, like most obviously affect it, but how you hire, how you do professional development, how you supervise, how you manage finances, the technology you use within your program,
Mhm.
all of those things, all those different systems come together to affect like teacher
Yeah.
retention.
Because what we hear is, I can't find teachers. I can't
Oh,
get
yeah.
teachers. The average is like 3 to 6 months, which is horrible because
Jeez.
it
Yeah.
impacts, the relationships, which is the basis
Yeah.
of guiding through the relationships. And what we say is, it's not just about finding people, it's hiring the right people that fit with your mission and statement
And the right seats.
and what you're doing and how you're shaping these people and how you're filling their cups and that's retention, building team, that's building their skills. Our average teacher was 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Our directors are still there from 1985.
Yeah.
So, it's, you have to constantly nurture everybody in your program.
Yeah. I think a big one that I feel really, particularly in the last 3 years, is onboarding. Programs are not onboarding staff correctly, and that's a lot of the issue. And I think that is unfortunately because of the shortage of teachers, that they're putting teachers in classrooms way quicker than you would have 10 years ago. Right?
Gaps.
Yeah, they're filling gaps. And so at the detriment of the teachers, right?
Right.
Even if you've worked in another center, I could work in another center for 10 years. I go to the center down the street. They may do things totally different. Of course, maybe the same regulation, but their philosophy might be different. The way they teach might be different. The app might be different. There's a lot of things that are different center to center that I think people don't take into consideration as well. There was something that you had said in terms of the finance, and I wanted to go back. Have you ever heard of the 5 Pillars of Profit? It's a book by Kathy. I want to say her last name's maybe Legion. Probably not it's a great book for any director that is out there. And she really talks about the 5 areas of finance that you really need to pay attention to. And they give you percentages of like, what's the average what you should be paying in wages? What's the percent? Because I think some people don't know, right? I think your costs can vary. Like you had 5 different locations. Your cost per student would not be the same in every location, right? Your rent would be different.
Mhm.
But I don't know that when newly emerging leaders are expanding, that they consider that, because I have to tell you, that was a mistake I made at first. I have 2 buildings that are across the street from each other. One I pay rent, it's really mortgage because I own that building, $3,200. Right across the street, I pay almost $10,000 for a building that's only, the difference is only 20 kids difference in capacity. Those look very different in what my cost per child is. Right. So there are a lot of things you need to consider. Like you said, you don't have to be a mathematician, but just plain simple math of what is your rent? What are your wages? What is your insurance? What are your supplies? How many children do you have in that building to compensate for how you're going to divvy that up? Right. So I think, a lot of times if you have multiple locations, they may say, this is the price. And it may not be enough to cover your costs if your costs fluctuate from building to building or by operating size too.
And I think what you just said is absolutely the thing you got to start with is, what is my cost?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of directors don't have the time or don't take the time to sit down and break down all their costs realistically and have budgets for miscellaneous and budget for contingency and all of these different things. Because the center we just were working with, the director came to me with some budget issues, and I said, well, how do you set your tuition? She's like, well, we just look at our tuition, but they're not setting their tuition in relationship to their overall budget. So they have to set their budget first before they set their tuition, but they're setting the tuition 6 months ahead because of enrollment cycles. And I said, you've got to really reverse this. Start with your budget before you're setting tuition, and understand the enrollment cycle that you're in and plan at least a year in advance. So we like doing a whole annual planning thing, with directors thinking a year ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of setting all these different figures, so to make sure that you're meeting your costs, that you have the right profit margin, that you're doing all the right things, so that you can pay your teachers what they need to attract them and maintain them and develop them.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things we do at our school, which I know some programs might think is crazy, we do our strategic planning. We have our entire team, not just the directors, our entire school is part of our strategic planning.
That's awesome.
And we do that for transparency, which a lot of people are afraid of. We do that for transparency. When our staff left that meeting, they felt so part of the bigger picture. I cannot tell you how many employees came to me and said, that was the best meeting I've ever been to in my life. Because they really could understand their impact of when they, and I'm going to make this real simple, like when you walk in the building and you walk by a piece of trash at the front door and you didn't pick it up, what is the impact for that? How does that impact us? Maybe a tour was coming in 5 minutes later. We didn't get that tour. That child's worth $20,000 a year. What could we do with $20,000 a year for supplies, for teaching salaries and all those things? And I think they really weren't making that connection, nor did they understand the true cost. Because you could be in a room and go, oh, well, there's 10 kids times $220. That's how much they're making. Okay, but you didn't deduct all of these things. And when we showed like, this is what we pay for paper towel. This is what, and we really did get, like, we went line item by line item. We shared our entire budget. They were in awe. They were in awe. They couldn't even believe what it really truly cost. And they understood what FTE was, because sometimes teachers will get upset. I have 12 kids on the roster. Why are you giving a tour? I'm like, well, these 2 kids only come 2 days a week. We got to sell the other 3 days. But they really didn't understand that. And why would they?
Yeah.
Why would they? Right?
Yeah.
And some people might think, wow, that's crazy. Really, yes, be transparent. I mean, we certainly didn't say Susie makes this and John makes that, but we have a lattice that says, this is what you have. These are your years of experience. This is your degree. This is the pay scale. Because again, there's, that's from back in the old days where you didn't tell what you made and all of it. It should be open. It should be fair. And if you want to grow, like, all right, if I want to make $20 an hour, I know this is what I need to do. This is where I need to go. Right. So.
And there's the financial piece, but there's also the intangibles.
Yeah.
And I think that what I try to help directors understand is you have to have the hands all around the finances. You have to pay the people. You have to compensate people what they deserve to be compensated. Sure. And you have to provide the right benefit structure if you're looking at full-time people. But you have to think about all the other things that go into retaining teachers, which is regular supervision, opportunities for professional development, planning time, breaks, time away from kids, thoughtful and intentional. All the things that you're asking them to do, you have to give them time to do those things.
Yeah.
So there's a tremendous time off, replenishing the well. You have to relationships that they're building on the team. Social events that they could be doing with their team members to build those relationships and create that good culture that you're trying to create. There's a ton of intangibles that directors need to be thoughtful about that don't cost money.
And I mean, that might sound like a lot, but if you have the right systems in place, like, it's not just about effort, because your systems are supporting you in doing that.
Doing all the heavy lifting.
And what we do when we start working with new members is we do like a full program assessment.
Yep.
So we try to understand, what are some of your challenges as a program and what are your goals? Like, think really blue sky. Like, what would you dream of this program looking like? And then we identify strength areas across their systems, opportunity areas. And I think the critical piece here, though, you don't necessarily solve like a complex problem with more complexity, solve it with simplicity. So we want to really focus in on the areas that are actually going to have the biggest impact, and then just simplify from there.
And build on those strengths. A director, which most directors are, fully accessible 24/7. That's where we start. We're like, we have to help you take control of your job. And creating a supervision model. That's a good place to start to develop these individual relationships with your teacher that you really understand, so that they're not coming to you 27 times a day. They're coming to you once a week, with a list of things that they need help with. I mean, there's some basic things that we can put in place pretty quickly that really have transformed programs.
Yeah. And I think too, giving the director support too. In our schools, we have assistant directors and we have education coordinators. So there's three folks there. So if you have a question around the curriculum or the PD, that's the education coordinator. The director doesn't even have to handle that. That's the education coordinator. If there's teachers that need breaks or lesson planning time, that's the assistant director. But building those systems and those
And that's also
supports.
delegating. You're delegating.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
But you're creating a leadership team, an administrative team that one supports one another, but also it's a go-to for the teachers.
Yeah.
It lightens the load of the executive director or the program director. And what it also does is it allows those three people to take time off because one can kind of come in. And that's the model we had. We had a curriculum director, an assistant director, and a program director. And that really allowed us to make sure that everybody had the right amount of time off to be replenished and that the school was in safe hands with one of those three people.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some key leadership skills that you believe every early childhood leader should master?
I think, master is a funny word for me because I feel like
we can always learn.
I can tell you for myself, I guess, I'm constantly learning. I'm always reading or listening to something, audiobook or whatever, talking to people in the field, trying to figure out what their challenges are and how to help them. But I'm constantly stimulating myself and my own ability to learn. I talk a lot, so I've been really working hard, and my son could comment on this. I'm trying to listen more. I'm trying to not be the person jumping in. It's always the problem. I'm trying to sit back and let things evolve more naturally and to not jump in and to really absorb what's happening. I'm also trying as a leadership coach to not absorb my clients' problems because I did that as a director. It's a natural feeling. You're sensitive. You're always wanting to support your directors, and met with each of my 10 directors every week and love those meetings, love that opportunity to hear about their lives both in the school and out of the school. But I would take their problems home, and I had to really learn over time that was not helpful to me. So again, what is my problem and what is their problem, and how can I help them solve that problem without absorbing it myself? So I do that, and that's boundary setting. So I think every leader has to really look at how he or she sets their boundaries. And this is a field where we're all in it because we're caring people. And so sometimes caring people have more porous boundaries. And, maybe in contrast to a big corporate kind of job where you're just a little bit more cutthroat.
That's where our kids come in.
Yeah.
That's where our kids come in. So my kid is a little more like David. My daughter Haley is a little bit like that. So I would, again, being very heart-centered, I'll give you an example. Our time for drop-off is 9. We give them a grace period till 9:30. If somebody shows up on the door at 9:32, I would let them in. Right. My daughter would not. Said, Mom, you already gave them a half hour. And I'm like, that person pays us $30,000 a year. She said, I don't care, Mom, because it starts with that. And then it just continues with the picking up late and then the paying you, and it snowballs, Mom. I'm like, okay, she's 26. But she just is like, no, Mom, I've watched it for years, like, because we are caring people and we give and we give and we give. And then you get to a point where you're burnt out and you can't really give anymore.
Absolutely. I think you have to set boundaries. You have to set expectations. Yeah. And again, going back to systems, if you have very clear systems and you educate parents why 9:32 is not okay, then it's easier for her or the teacher to say, I'm sorry, it's 9:32. I think that what we don't want to do is we want to be consistent. And I think consistency is another thing in leadership, back to your question, that is critical. You want to be consistent in how you approach your staff and the job because you don't want to be an unpredictable director. You want people to know that you're there for them and this is the time you're there for them.
All right. So as we start to wrap up a little bit, how do you see leadership evolving in early childhood education over the next 5 years?
How do we see what?
How do you see leadership evolving?
Well, I think the first step is really provide more support for leaders, which is what we're trying to do. I think that there isn't much out there. It's a very isolating job and it's a very overwhelming job. And even at this conference, each time I talk to a director, I hear the same story, like my director just left or the school closed because my director was burnt out. What we're trying to do is really create systems for sustainability So I think that the more support we give leaders and directors in order to be effective in their jobs and support themselves and help themselves grow, build their own cups, the more we're going to have sustainability and more good programs and more strong teams. So I don't know the answer to the question. I think that, there's some funding that, is drying up. So I think there's a lot of gaps to be filled.
Yeah. We're on it, Robin. We're on it.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just trying to do my small part with David and Rooted. And I think hopefully I'm inspired by patients that we want to collaborate with because they're doing great work. And, that's what I want to do. I want to kind of share what we've learned and what we've created with other people so that it can have a ripple effect. And I think if everybody does that, and we're going to build stronger early childhood programs, better communities, stronger leaders, better teachers.
Yeah. Did you guys present today, or like this?
We have not presented. We kind of missed that opportunity because we were a little late into it, but we have a table here.
Sure.
So we're getting a chance to meet some really great people.
Steven, so I asked obviously a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I didn't ask that you would like to add from your side of the table?
Robin, I think, said most of it.
She did.
I think that.
Talk about the technology
And
our platform.
I think that what we're trying to do is make this really accessible for people, and kind of meet people where they're at. As I said earlier with our program assessment, it's really about meeting the program where they're at and whatever their individual needs are. On the technology side, which is one of the areas where I think I compliment Robin, is we've set up our infrastructure in a way that people can go on our website, they can access everything from there. So if they're interested in figuring out what kind of trainings we offer, what kind of support we offer, it's all available through there. If you want to buy a single training, if you want to sign up for membership, it's very at your fingertips because directors are busy. And so we want to make this really frictionless and easy for them. We don't want to make them take a 6-hour course on a specific topic if the single thing that was going to make the most impact could be communicated in 5 minutes. That's kind of the approach that we're more taking on the service delivery side of all of this. But is there anything else you think we should mention?
Yeah, I think that the trainings that we put together as our starting point, and because we have different ideas of how we want to continue to develop this organization, is really having very practical tools after the training that you can put right in place.
Yeah.
There's terrific trainings and theoretical trainings, and we have a lot of theory in what we do. But our goal here is to make your job easier as a director, give you better systems, give you have more time back into your schedule, and help you grow your teachers and be a good leader.
The other thing I'll mention on the resources side, because this is more technology related as well, is with the rise of generative AI, you can now do some really cool things with resources. And so what we've done is we've taken all of our knowledge base, all of these systems, all these skills, all these teacher trainings, we have fed them, into a chatbot that is intelligent. It essentially can be like Robin or I in your pocket.
Yep.
You can have a conversation with it like you would us, give it more context, the better its answers are going to be.
Sure.
And it's like an empathetic, problem-solving coach for you as a director. And, Robin and I are obviously only so extensible. So what this does is when we aren't able to provide immediate hands-on support, you can go to this chatbot 24/7 and get answers.
And we offer that to all of our members.
That's
it's
available.
For the director.
It's really for the director. It's available to all our members. But people the reception has been tremendous.
Sure. And you guys are primarily in Maine right now.
Primarily in Maine right now.
Yeah, we can do teacher trainings anywhere, but we're really focusing on the leadership end of things in Maine.
Yep.
Right now, the leadership component is focused in Maine, but teacher trainings, that's something that I think anybody anywhere could actually access.
All right. So tell folks where they find your information.
So you can visit us at www.rooted-development.com. That's our website. It's got everything. You can also reach out to us at info.
All right, guys. So you heard it here first, where leadership goes and leadership grows. See you tomorrow.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Childcare Director's Chair, where we believe leaders aren't born, they're grown. If something sparked for you today, share it, shout it out, or pass it along to the next bold changemaker in childcare. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with Erica Sakosio for more real talk leadership tools and a whole lot of inspiration. Until next time, lead with heart, grow with fire, and always remember, the chair is yours. Now own it.